Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Azizi podcast, and this is our second video episode, and it's also my pretty much second, if not, well, yeah, third second episode in English. And I have my guest here, this is Ryan Scalia with me. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Good, very good.
Hey, so thanks for coming. I'm actually gonna like turn to you like this because this is like the
Yeah.
first time. I'm not even sure. Like we're like looking at our reflection here, so I'm not sure like where do I supposed to look. But I'm gonna look at you so that we actually have like a real conversation,
Yeah.
and then it will sort of look like we actually talking with each other, not with the screen. So, anyways, you're such a huge guy. You're in boxing. Everyone knows you. The first time I heard about you was from Doug Fisher, and Doug Fisher, the editor-in-chief of the Ring magazine, super like the walking boxing encyclopedia, very respectable guy in the boxing industry. And he always refers to you once we talk about amateurs, once we talk about prospects, especially from Central Asia, especially from Russia. Like he says, like this guy knows everything. And then I followed you on Twitter, and we sort of like sometimes tweeted each other and all of that, and we finally met yesterday
Yeah.
in Canada. I'm in Canada, and you're a Canadian, and you're
Yes.
based out of Canada. So this is very exciting. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, the funny thing is, the only reason I'm here today recording this podcast, I was already supposed to be on a plane uh, back home, and the travel agent messed my flight up. It was supposed to be today, but the travel agent booked it on Tuesday, so I woke up. Actually, I didn't wake up because I didn't go to bed.
I
Uh,
still I still think you just missed your flight, man. You're still not
nah,
telling me
nah.
that. You partied way too
So,
hard yesterday.
so 4:30 a.m. I was trying to check into my flight, and it wasn't working. I tried like 3 times,
Mhm.
and I'm like, am I still drunk or something? And but so it ended up that the flight was on Tuesday and it wasn't
Mhm.
today,
Mhm.
but it was supposed to be today. But
Mhm.
I never noticed it until the morning of. So that's why I'm here today.
Yeah, I just randomly texted you about some boxing thing this morning, and you're like, "Hey, like I'm still in Toronto. I'm staying here." And I was like, "Yeah, come over." So, by the way, for those who don't know, this is my apartment here in Toronto. So, um, if you're a friend of mine or if you heard about me and you go to boxing events, you can say hi. And maybe even you will have the privilege of crashing at my place. But I have specifically bought a bed for you today. That's how we treat guests in Kazakhstan, and that's how we treat guests here.
You just got to give me one of those robes. Yeah.
which robes? Like the one the Triple G wears?
Yeah, like with the full hat
Oh,
and everything.
the full hat is a special one. You have to really deserve the full
Okay.
hat.
I'll work my way up to that.
For sure, man, for sure. But yeah, man, tell me about yourself. Again, this for those who are watching this and expecting some like crazy like inside boxing content. It's definitely not it. This is not like a hardcore boxing podcast. I'm in boxing. I love boxing, but I consider myself like still a casual fan, and I feel like that's one of my powers to be a casual fan, so that I actually can see things in boxing as a casual fan.
Yeah.
Which is good for business, I think, to know the big picture without actually getting into this nitty gritties. But anyway, so I just want to talk about general stuff. I want to talk about your interests. I want to ask you how you started. How come you are so popular amongst the boxing hardcore industry people, and how it all started. So tell me about your first interest with boxing.
First interest with boxing probably was MMA.
Okay.
As that's pretty unconventional
Mm-hmm.
as a route into boxing. But probably when I was like 14 years old, I really got hardcore into MMA and kickboxing, Muay Thai, and all that
So you
stuff.
actually you actually did that. You actually went and
Yeah,
fought.
Muay Thai and kickboxing. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that had some really small time fights, like a handful of them. Never a serious fighter or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But trained BJJ, wrestling, all that kind of stuff. And then I guess when I was 15, I went to the boxing gym
Mm-hmm.
for the first time. My friend was a fighter and trained there for a bit, but again, wasn't really serious.
So how did that happen? So your train was a fighter, your friend was a fighter, and he said like, hey, like come to my gym, let's train together.
Yeah, like we just used to like spar in the basement, in the backyard, and all that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
then,
Damn, that's hardcore. Like, I don't know.
not really. But yeah, then went to the gym. I wasn't that serious about it. It was more
Uh huh.
hanging out than
Uh
it
huh.
was training.
But you were already like in the know, like
Yeah,
you
but
were
that's when I started like following it.
right, the professionals, or like how it actually is supposed to be.
Yeah, that's when I really started following boxing and I
Hmm.
probably didn't get like super serious about it until I was like 18 or 19. I'm
Hmm.
25 now.
Do you remember the boxer that you were following at the beginning? Like, was it like
Pacquiao.
Pacquiao? Okay, so he
Yeah.
was the guy. Like, you were really watching him.
I remember probably the first big fight that I really got, anticipated for was Pacquiao De La Hoya.
Hmm.
And it's crazy because what, that's like 11 years ago now, 12 years ago,
Hmm.
something like that. So,
Hmm.
like I said, I'm 25. I'm not
Right.
very old. Haven't
Right.
been around for
It's all good.
a
I'm
long
I'm a,
time.
I'm a couple years
Yeah,
older than you, so we're pretty much the same age, which is
yeah,
pretty cool. That's what I said yesterday. Like,
yeah,
hey, like usually the guys that I meet in boxing, they're like freaking. They can be my grandfathers, you know.
yeah,
But it's
exactly.
finally it's nice to see someone on the business side who is my age. So that's great to see that generation.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess it kind of developed for, yeah, when I was like 16 or 17, I
Hmm.
was hardcore into kickboxing and Muay Thai. I wrote articles on this website, liverkick.com, which was like
Oh,
the biggest kickboxing website
wait. So how old
out
were you?
there, like 16 or 17.
And how come you decided to write an article? Like, was that like
Oh, I don't know. The guy,
I mean, that's like hard. I don't know, like
no, because
writing an article.
I was just like talking with the guy on Twitter every day, and he's like, "Oh, you're smart. You should come right from my site
Uh huh.
and all that stuff." So I did that, and then I was kind of putting together a records database,
Hmm.
like kind of Wikipedia for kickboxing stuff.
It's like a box rec, but for for kickboxing.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was doing.
Hmm.
But then I kind of lost interest in that
Hmm.
and really moved towards boxing as my main focus.
But that was like still just a hobby. Like you were just like following it, or you actually like, oh shit, like I'm gonna get
You
into
know,
soon.
funny enough, when I was like 16, I still thought I could be a professional fighter, and
Uh huh.
you know, I'm not. I'm. I still think I could do a few pro fights in the future.
Nice.
Just because I want that experience.
Uh huh.
Because
It will help you out
I feel
professionally.
like if I
Yeah.
did a few pro fights, I would just learn so much and have a better understanding
Yeah.
of this whole game. So yeah, main thing is I just got to get in shape. That's the main thing. I wouldn't say I'm good or anything, but I know how to box. I know
Right.
how to fight
Right.
and all that. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, that could be interesting. But when I was 16, 17, I still thought I could be a fighter. Um, thought I could make a living as a fighter and
Uh-huh.
all that. Like I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna move to Thailand and
Damn.
yeah, but I just kept procrastinating on that and it never happened.
Uh-huh.
When I was like 18, 19, I got
That's a
really,
hardcore dream though. Like
yeah,
move
yeah,
to Thailand, freaking fight
yeah,
people and like make your living that way. Like fuck.
yeah, but like when I was like 18, 19, I got really serious about Muay Thai and kickboxing. That's when I had, a handful of, some local fights.
Uh-huh.
And that's pretty much when I learned, you know, what I know, when I learned how to fight,
Right.
basically. Because everything I was doing before wasn't even serious.
Mhm.
So, and yeah, I did that probably for like 18 months serious.
Mhm.
And then the gym shut down and I just stayed hitting the heavy bag in my garage, and
Mhm.
so I didn't really continue serious training after that.
You know that reminds me. Like I used to do rugby, and I was in the 10th grade, I think, and at some point they broke my nose,
Oh yeah,
and I was so such in shock, and I'm such a, like a princess because I'm always like I care how I look and all of that, and then to have my nose freaking messed up like this was like I was like in shock basically, and then I had to skip the next training just because psychologically I was not ready to come back. But then I,
yeah,
I went to another one and something happened, like they switched the location and they moved to another place or something like that, and I sort of lost contacts. But at the same time, I feel like I didn't really pushed hard enough to come back to rugby just because they messed me up so bad. Um, I don't know, just reminded me of how I
yeah.
dropped that sport.
I, it's a big regret of mine that I never fully dedicated myself to fighting,
Hmm.
because I honestly think like I could have been decent, like decent as in I could have just won a few fights, as
Hmm.
a whether as an amateur or as a low level pro.
Right, right.
I think I could have won some fights. Obviously, I'm 25. There's a lot of time left. I can still
Hmm.
have a
You think
few.
at 25 you can come back? Like you can
Yeah,
get yourself
definitely,
in shape?
definitely. All I got to do is get myself in shape and spar,
Hmm.
really, because I already know what I'm doing.
Hmm.
And then, I'll just get better, getting back in shape.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I can still do a few fights to kind of check off the bucket list,
Mm-hmm.
and
Do you think it's worth it though? Like,
yeah,
I mean, you can
definitely.
get messed
I
up though.
mean, the thing is, like, anyone can go down to Mexico and pay $100 to fight someone.
Uh-huh. You
Like,
just want to do that. You just kind of want you want that
yeah, I mean,
thrill.
I don't want to just knock over, for lack of a better term, a bum,
Yeah.
but I just want to get that experience
Uh-huh.
of, you know, being in the ring, having a pro fight. I think it
Yeah.
would be really interesting, and like, I, it's kind of weird, but like, I don't even mind getting hit.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like, I'm not great defensively. I take shots right on the nose,
Right.
and but yeah, it doesn't really bother me all that much. And one of the weird things is, I'm like 5'5", so not very big. So in terms of like all my experience in the gym and a few fights, I've never gone against someone actually my size.
Mm-hmm.
It's all been like
Bigger guys.
guys like 10, 15, 20 pounds heavier.
Damn.
So I think it would be interesting to actually, you know, test myself against some guys that are my size, even if, they suck. I just
Right.
think it would be a good experience.
And that would be fair at least, like
Yeah,
to fight someone your size. Man, that's what I was always wondering because the more I am in boxing and the more I talk to boxers, and they're different, breed of people. There's just like you can feel that power in them, but at the same time, like, and I'm in it, and I'm on some teams, just kind of like a side guy, right? I'm just like there for like to do some translation, do some other things, and so are other people, right? So are like including everyone. But then there's this one fighter, right? And everyone is like running around them for like for the entire career and for the fight week and all that. But at the end of the day, he needs to step into the ring.
exactly.
And Mike Tyson said it best. Like I just saw his conference again, press conference, like one of the past one. And he's like, boxing is the loneliest sport. Like it's the loneliest sport. Like there's no one. Like once you're in the ring, like it's just you and there's the other guy, and he wants to kill you. And then like with all these fatalities and all of that that happened recently, and I'm just thinking like mentally, like that's what you say, like you want to get in the ring to like really get that experience. Like mentally, this is like some different level. This is not volleyball, this is not
Yeah,
handball, this is not
yeah,
basketball, this is not a team sport, it's not even fencing or whatever. This is literally the most savage primitive sport where you literally need to go there and destroy other person's head.
yeah,
Like if put it, I mean, of course there's a lot of boxing science. I don't want to disrespect anything about boxing. There's a lot of science behind it in terms of like how you move and like technique and all of that. It's huge.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, it's getting punched in the face and punching other person in the face, and that mentality. And when that person punches you in the face, like you have to punch back. You cannot just run away. And that's what I just watched the Joe Rogan with Holyfield podcast, and they were talking about Deontay Wilder, and Holyfield like spoke highly of Wilder because of his confidence. So when
yeah,
he was fighting Ortiz, he was, Ortiz really was winning there, like beating him and all that. And he's like, well, Wilder is actually really confident. He gets hit like this, but he still moves
yeah,
forward and hits back, and that's just on your instinct level. I feel like when something is hitting you in the face, your like instant action reaction is just like to go away, to like protect yourself, to not go forward. And just that mental break that you need to do to actually forego all of your instincts that were developing for like
yeah.
millions of years and actually hit back while you're still getting hit in the face. That's what boxing is, and so that's why it's so hard. And I just feel like that's why it's another level. So it ain't no basketball.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to have a screw loose,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the feeling of hitting someone, it's like a sensation, you know.
yeah. Honestly, last time I fought was in 10th grade. It was great. It was a great fight. Blood and all.
Who won?
Honestly, and it was actually a draw because they called the police and we all ran
Oh,
away.
okay.
And but we messed each other up really well. Like it was pretty good. And I've got some shots there. He got some shots there. It was a great fight. Like my friends still come up to me and they talk about that fight, like how great it was. But I'm actually glad that there was no cell phones at that time, or like there were, but no one was filming or something. I don't know. I just like I don't like to have those kind of moments filmed. But still, it was a great fight, and we became really good friends. It was my classmate. But anyways, it's I just what I don't remember any like sensation when you hit. It's just that adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
we're gonna fight after school. Okay, cool. But like, we have like two more lessons to go, two more classes, and so you're sitting there and you feel that adrenaline rush before the fight. Like you're just sitting there shaking, like, oh shit, it's about to go down. It's about to go down. And then the school is finally over, and you need to get your coat and jacket. Remember, and you just need to go like behind the buildings. We have like old Soviet stuff there, and you have to meet with the person and all. It's just like that adrenaline rush, that scare, that fear. That's what I remember. And then once the fight starts, it's just like you gotta go.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. But man, yeah. Have you fought at school?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get into school fights past like the age of 12.
Uh huh.
I don't.
Well, I mean, in Canada, they're probably more regulated. Like you shouldn't like. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
there's still lots of fights.
Yeah, I see. Like in American high schools, I see this video on Twitter. Like
Yeah.
they're really crazy. Like they actually mess each other up like even more heavily than in Russia. I would say. Like there's just some. I don't know. It's, I don't know. I mean, it's kids. They don't understand. I mean, fighting is bad, by the way. Don't fight anyone. Excuse me. My father just called, like completely like broke my vibe. Anyways, so yeah, what were we talking about? I forgot.
Fighting.
Right. No, I know, but like school fights. Oh, like what you said, when you hit someone, you have the sensation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what you're craving for? That sensation? You just want to hit someone and feel that?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's why a lot of people like combat sports.
Nice, nice. All right, so let's go back to you being 16 and you're writing all these articles
Yeah.
and okay, so you wrote your first article. When did you realize that you actually can do it? Like you actually, like that there's something in it.
Probably when I was 16. I
Right.
mean, the thing about me is I've always had a very like obsessive mind, and if I'm passionate about something, I'll go all in on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was like 8 years old, I used to go to the library,
Mhm.
and at that time I was into hockey. So I would go,
Oh, okay. I was wondering if you're into hockey.
yeah, when I was a young kid.
Okay, cool.
So I would go to the library,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd take out this book that's about this thick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a statistics book, and I
Damn.
used to read all these hockey statistics and
Oh, okay, that kind of
memorize them.
statistics. Because my
Yeah.
my instinct is like the stats, like the freaking macroeconomics and econometrics. Like,
Yeah,
nice,
so I
nice.
used to memorize all these hockey
Okay, cool.
statistics and read these hockey books
Uh
and
huh.
all that kind of stuff. And I basically do the same thing boxing,
Uh
really.
huh. So you just like started like just learning about fighters and get their stats and all of that, and you realize like, okay, you can navigate through that.
Yeah, one thing I've learned a lot is it's one thing to be able to, watch all these fights and memorize all this stuff, but if you can't evaluate what you're watching and what you're reading,
Hmm.
the proper way, then it doesn't mean anything. And that's like the best people, in the boxing industry, they're able to make those evaluations.
So elaborate on that. What do you mean by evaluations? Like, how do you
It's like
evaluate?
stuff like determining, is this amateur going to make a good pro?
So let's talk about this. How do you know that? Like, let's say we have an amateur from Kazakhstan and his name is
Yeah.
Kairat.
Yeah.
What do you look at?
Well, I want to look at his style. I want to look at his mentality.
Let's start with the style. So, what kind of styles do you, or like? I mean, I don't want to go super into it, but like, talk about like a good example of a guy that has the package, the full
Well,
package.
Triple G.
Well, okay, let's
Yeah.
that's an easy one. But let's talk about the prospect, for example. When you look at the amateur.
Well, Sadruddin Akhmedov.
Okay.
Yeah, we were talking about him before, but like I said, he won the World Youth Championship, which is 18 and under in
Hmm.
2016, and he always had a pro style,
Hmm.
and he's got flair. He's a high octane kind of fighter. He's got good reflexes. He's fast, and one of the really important things, he's got power.
Hmm.
And then outside the ring, marketability,
Hmm.
very important.
Hmm.
He already has his own brand and logo and slogan and
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. Like,
So marketability is actually something that I'm very interested in boxing. Like, I'll be honest with you, I think that's the most outside the actual fight. Marketing is something that's really like I'm really curious about. I'm really passionate about how do you market a boxer because I'm dealing with all these boxers. Well, not all. I'm dealing with a couple of boxers that are from Eastern Europe or Central Asia,
yeah,
and so the question is how do you because Triple G is a special case. He knows English, and he's a good looking guy. I mean, he crushes people, right? So I mean, it's great. But we have other people who are, not as marketable, right? Who are, for example, a little bit shy, a little bit introverted, and all of that. So how do you see marketing for the newcomers from Eastern Europe and Central Asia? What do you need to work on with them? Do you need to explain it to them? Do you think that they need to understand like what they're getting into?
Yeah, I mean, that's what Aegis Klimas, he
Uh-huh.
definitely tells these guys that you need charisma.
Yeah, charisma,
Obviously,
exactly.
learning the language helps a lot. Being open with the media is a big thing, and being willing to do the media rounds.
Mm-hmm.
To put that time in,
Mm-hmm.
because if a lot of guys, if you just show that you hate doing media, then the media aren't gonna spend too much time on you. And exposure
Yeah.
is everything. Especially in this digital
Right.
age, it's all about getting the exposure.
I gotta tell you, like doing some media events next to a fighter for like 2 straight days, talking to journalists and video cameras, and I'm just right behind them, like translating and all of that. It's a huge physical labor to
Yeah,
like just do that and answer those questions. And the questions are the same, and you have to like be presentable to everyone and respectable and all of that. So it's definitely a commitment. It's not like you just talk to a reporter and you're like you're good with the media. It definitely takes some toll. Like you dedicate your time, which means you dedicate your physical abilities. You're skipping training, or you maybe skipping a meal or something like that. So yeah. But I agree with you. I mean, charisma and respect for the media and getting that exposure. Especially, it's so easy, I think, to get that exposure even right now with all the social media.
yeah,
You don't have to have a journalist around you. You have your phone and you just start recording.
yeah,
I think what I like as well, Israel Madrimov does it a lot. He turns on his Instagram. He turns on Instagram Live, and he literally just talks to people. He just replies and just like, "Hey, salam alaikum," like, and he's just like, getting some phone calls. He's just like replying to their questions and all that. He really does this fan interaction.
yeah. I mean, Madrimov is another good example of a guy like that,
Mm-hmm.
because he kind of gets it, and I don't. I guess I don't want to go too far into technical boxing talk,
But you
but
can, if you feel like it's appropriate, you can do it. I mean,
but a guy like Madrimov is where, obviously, in terms of talent, he's got it. He's got the natural physical strength. He's got the willingness and the mentality. And the thing is, with a lot of these amateurs, you really gotta not be fooled by the flair and
mm-hmm.
the flash, because
With
there's
a salto mortale at the end of the fight.
yeah, like there's a lot of these top amateurs. They're real flashy. They're real good at distance,
Right.
and then you take them out of that comfort of distance, and they
Mm-hmm.
completely fall apart. And that's what happens to a lot of these guys in the pros. You have to look at their style and how it's going to adapt
Mm-hmm.
to the pros, and whether they're willing to adapt, whether they have a trainer that's going to teach them
Mm-hmm.
how to adapt. We see with your compatriot like Danny Arguello.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Mm-hmm.
had problems with
Yeah.
it.
What do you think about him?
Yeah, I mean the guy's like 28, almost 29,
Oh, I thought
and
he's younger.
no, and it seems like he hasn't figured this stuff out yet, because he was such a great amateur.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that doesn't mean you're going to be a great pro. And he's pretty much fighting exclusively at range. When he tries to go in the pocket, he doesn't know
Mm-hmm.
how the proper positioning to fight in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
In the pros, he's pulling out with his head back, like they do in the amateurs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Jumping in, jumping out, especially with the backhand, and that stuff works great in the
So
amateurs.
who's supposed to explain that to him? Is there supposed
A
to be
trainer,
a new trainer? Like, hey,
yeah,
like, okay, amateurs is over. Here's how you do it. Here's it.
yeah.
Okay, and do you think they're not doing this right now, or like he's just not getting it?
Uh,
How does
I
this
don't.
work?
I'm not in. I'm not.
You
I
you
don't
don't.
like making general statements about what the trainers, because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I'm not in the gym
Right.
looking at them.
Right.
But yeah, he hasn't. Well, it's not just him. It's actually most top amateurs nowadays from most
Mm-hmm.
countries.
Mm-hmm.
They just aren't being taught how to fight at multiple ranges.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they aren't being taught variations of
Mm-hmm.
of their game, like variations of rhythm, variations of speed, feints,
Mm-hmm.
all of this kind of sophisticated stuff. It's more just one layer that they know from the amateurs, and then they have
Mm-hmm.
to, they're not adding a bunch of more layers.
Here's what I think the boxers should understand. Professional boxers. when you are transitioning from amateurs to professional boxing, you have to understand, like the boxer itself, the performer, right, needs to understand like you are the performer and you're the main actor in this theater, and the ring is the stage. And
Yeah.
people come here not to like just see the sporting events; they're here to see the show. And hence, like you have all this, shorts with like strazzes and all this like pretty girls in the ring and all of that.
Yeah.
It's a performance, it's a show, and you are the main actor. And your main job in the professional boxing, outside of being a good boxer, is to entertain the crowd. That's what I
Right.
think, because that's what drives uh, the market. That's what pushes the needle. I guess they say it in English, but that's just my personal opinion. Like in my like, I guess 5 year like following the sport is like that's what people would like to see. That's why it's such an important. It's so important to do like the proper matchmaking and the proper promotion as well. And I feel like that's that part needs to be really understood by every boxer, especially if you're coming from outside America. In America, it's kind of like already given, like they sort of understand it, the
Yeah.
Charlo brothers or whatever. But if you're like from Belarus, let's say, and you're just this boxer who is like a really good amateur, and he just like, okay, like I have this guy just called me up and say like, oh, we're gonna pay you a bunch of money, like a lot of money to come to America and fight. Like you have to really understand like what the market wants, where is the demand. And it's not for you like, oh, to tap 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 and dance and that's it. Like it's boring. Like some fights are just boring and they're not selling.
Yeah.
That's what, like, as in from the marketing perspective, that's what I really want each prospect to understand, especially when they come from abroad.
Yeah. Well, you gotta make people care about you,
Exactly.
and the best way to do that is to perform in the ring. I mean, that's the tried and true formula.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've seen with a lot of guys, Triple G, Kovalev, guys like that. If you can perform in the ring at an elite level, like they did, then that's how you get. Obviously, that's how you get to the top in the ring. But even outside the ring, that's how they got there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. So what do you do now? Like, how do you basically evolved into like this sort of oracle of, that's how I see you, like about like, oh, let's talk with Ryan about amateurs, like he probably knows, he's following everyone. Like how eventually you got into the industry for real?
Well, I mean, it probably started when I really fully realized I could do something. It was probably I told you this story last night. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
about Steve Kim.
Mm.
We just talked on Twitter a bunch, and he's like, "Hey, come write for my site UCN Live."
Mm-hmm.
And then I started writing some stuff on there, and then I thought, okay, let's try to be a boxing writer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I quickly realized, nah, this ain't for me.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I had like people in the industry started contacting me and asking all these kind of questions about stuff, and I'm like, look, if like some top people in the industry are asking me, you know, questions and help.
All right, so you're realizing that you're not down with the whole 9 to 5 job thing.
No, like that just doesn't do it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I I can't do something I'm not interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've done that before, and it's just not for me. That's not the life I want to live. I like doing what I want
Right.
when I want.
Right. Hey, I'm into that because I'm really supporting that idea, and I'm recently sort of realizing the same thing.
Yeah, and even like in terms of it's not just boxing. Even in terms of business, like I'm learning so many things lately,
Mm-hmm.
just from I guess getting older and wiser, and
Mm-hmm.
how I can how I can kind of do things
Mm-hmm.
without just being tied down to a job
Mm-hmm.
and living that kind of life.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm guessing right now, like you have different sort of people in the industry reaching out to you for your consultation and for your opinion. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, basically, I mean, like, I think you're kind of blowing me out of proportion, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'd say I'm on the brink of some pretty big things. Um, there's certain people that I've helped, and
Mhm.
certain people that I'm helping that are pretty big and influential figures that have
Mhm.
helped me a lot, and you know uh, really pushed me forward. And I think some of those relationships are really starting to pay off soon. Obviously, what you said about consultation, yeah, that's definitely one thing.
Hmm.
What I believe, I'm about to start branching out into is kind of recruiting, scouting,
Right,
and
scouting is what you're doing right now as well, right? It's
yeah, basically, and that leads to managing, which is
mhm.
the ultimate goal.
So that's your aim is
Yeah,
to become
that's
a boxing manager.
yeah, and like I'm not under any false illusions of what that is. I know exactly how tough of a business that is,
Hmm.
and everything. But I know there's certain things that are going to be in play
Hmm.
that mean that give me the opportunity to pursue that.
Wow, this is great. Hey, thanks so much for coming and crashing at my place and
Exactly.
giving me your time to record this podcast. It's a little, there's like some rough, rough patches in this podcast, so I'm gonna be doing some editing. But so far, like, I'm really enjoying this conversation, and this was a great episode. I feel like, and you're such a great guy. So thanks so much for coming, and I wish you all the best. And hopefully you'll come again, and we'll talk to you more about how your career progresses.
Absolutely. Like I said before, hopefully I'm moving to Toronto next year. If that happens, you may see me again on the Azizi podcast.
Perfect. Is there's anywhere where people can read your stuff or follow you on your social media?
Yeah, my Twitter is, you can just search my name, or the username is RIAN5CA. Facebook, I guess if you want to add me on Facebook, RIANSEALIA. Same thing on Instagram, and that's pretty much it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a ZZ podcast with my friend Ryan Scalia. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, watch us on YouTube, and do the whole other things: Spotify, Stitcher, Quicker, all the platforms. I think we are there. If we're not, shoot me a text message, message me on Twitter, and we'll fix it. Alrighty. Thank you. Goodbye.